Disembodied Voices, posted in the Paranormal subreddit by Jenny. The second house I remember living in, I was about 7 when we moved into it. My mom told me that I told her someone was in the front living room looking at her stuff as we were moving in. The doors were all open as my folks and brother put stuff away. I was little, so I guess I was just walking around and told them that there's this lady in the front room. My mom goes to look, and apparently the lady is gone. She assumed it was probably a new neighbor and asked me to describe the person. I described a woman in colonial clothing. This incident is one I don't remember, but it leads up to my story. Across the street from our house, on the busy street in our little town, was a very old house. It looked to be from the 1800s at best. 3-story, white, wooden, and with a wraparound porch. It was very old-fashioned looking, with eaves and gables. My brother used to go exploring around there, and he took me once. I kind of recall having this odd feeling someone was watching us, but the house was empty and no longer inhabited by anyone as far as we knew. One day I was playing in the living room. The way our house was set up was that it was 1 story, but you could walk through all the rooms from one side to the other. If you came in from the garage, you walked over to the front end of the den, and it shared half a wall with the kitchen, and you crossed the kitchen, which shared half a wall with the living room, and the front door being between them both. I was playing on the floor next to the half wall, and my mom was in the kitchen parallel to me, cleaning up. I hear someone, female, call my name, and I get up to ask my mom what she wants. She looks at me distracted by her cleaning and says she didn't say anything. I shrug, go back to playing, and hear my name called again. I look around the wall this time without getting up, and my mom again tells me she didn't call me. By now I'm wondering if she's playing a trick on me, so I wait, pretending to play, and the voice calls my name again, but this time a bit more slowly and deliberately. I turn to look around the wall, and the voice is speaking my name, but my mom isn't moving her lips. I wait again, and the voice says my name once more, the source somewhere in the living room, off in a corner of the room that faces the opposite of the front door, and is near the hallway that leads to the bathroom and bedrooms. I'm looking around trying to get an idea where it's coming from as it calls my name one more time and seems to be asking me something. I'm just fascinated by this disembodied voice, looking around at the air trying to place it, when the voice says my name in a scolding manner, as if it knows I'm not paying attention, repeating what it said before. I really couldn't hear what it said, seeing as it seemed to fade or garble as it spoke. I remember something like, "I need you to," and the rest was indecipherable. As this voice speaks over and over again, suddenly there is another one that starts calling my name. This one is male, and is asking the same thing, only again. I can't understand what they want. And the third voice pipes in, also male, and it's asking the same thing. Now, there are 3 voices talking to me all at the same time, and I'm staring up at the ceiling at this one point where the walls meet, the wall that touches the kitchen, and that seems to be the source of the voices more or less. They are all talking together, suddenly becoming louder and louder until they just cut off. The odd thing about this, right about the time the third voice chimed in, I had this weird sort of image in my head of a literal thought cloud hanging over my head. Inside this word cloud were 3 people, 2 youngish looking men and a woman. She stood between them, and they all had dark hair, but hers was more brown. They were dressed in white, the men wearing white linen or cotton type shirts like you might have worn in the 1800s, and the woman wearing a pretty dress that buttoned up to the neck below the chin. They were kind of looking at me, and the background was clouds and a blue sky, as if they were in what a child would consider heaven. I was seeing this more with my head than my eyes, but I remember it as if it were superimposed on the wall like a window in the air. Their lips moved with the voices I heard, and they were just looking at me as before, as I said, but the voices cut off, and it all stopped. It was a surreal experience, but didn't scare me. I was too dumb to be scared of them, and I didn't feel anything bad from them. I actually remember feeling somewhat relaxed and calm. My mom didn't seem to experience the same thing, so it was just something that happened to me. I might explain the woman from before my mom told me about. Plus, I wonder if they were from the house across the street. My brother sometimes brought things back he found near the house, so they could have come with those items. After that, I remember someone would call my name off and on while we lived in that house. If I turned or reacted to it, they would laugh with this weird, surreal, tinkling voice. It was sort of like a made-you-look kind of laugh. I always knew that they were around because I would shiver, then get this nauseated feeling, a tightness in my chest and head, and feel kind of sick. It was not a pleasant feeling at all, and I would bite my tongue or cheek to ease it until they left. I wasn't scared of them, but the sick feeling and their calling my name was more annoying than anything. It was like having another annoying sibling around. So, what do you think? Anyone else had a similar experience? Has anyone else gotten a phone call from hell? Posted in the Paranormal subreddit by Terra15Winters18. This happened to my parents, not me, but I can fully say that something was wrong with the house we lived in. When this happened, my family lived in an old house built back when buildings were put up for just people to get paid. My mom and dad were both pagan at the time, never ever specify more than pagan. The story takes place when I was gone for some reason. My mom is one of the sweetest people I've ever met. She's so pure and beautiful. She just had this white, gentle aura of peace. My dad, on the other hand, is the opposite at this point in time. He changed his ways since, and he's now a great person. From what my dad told me, they had been doing some ritual that he couldn't remember when the phone rang. He answered it, and he says he heard fire and people screaming. My mom heard it too, but they both say it never happened for their peace of mind. I know something was drawn to that house because when I was younger, I heard a voice in my walls saying, "Kill." That's a different story for a different time, though. Anyways, my question is, has anyone ever gotten a similar call to this call from hell? Some experiences I've had, posted in the Paranormal subreddit by Megas Mathios. I don't really know what I'm trying to find out about them, but maybe what I've experienced. Oftentimes people will say you're crazy, but I just discovered this subreddit and I would like to hear what others think. I've experienced a lot. People say it's because I'm an identical twin, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. However, my twin and I have had some crazy dreams at the same time about the same thing. I've always been a little afraid of the dark and empty houses from experiences when I was little. Maybe they weren't paranormal, but they were enough to scare me. The experiences that stand out most are from a house that my dad bought. The previous owners died in the house. First, the husband died, and then the widow, who had a heart attack in the hallway. Soon after my dad bought the house, my sister moved in with him. My parents were separated. She moves back in the room connected to the hallway. The hallway has 3 rooms connected to it, 2 regular rooms in the master bedroom. My sister sets up her room, hangs pictures, etc. during the day. She left for a couple hours early in the day and came back. She found all her pictures off the wall and on the ground. She called and asked if my brother or I had been over. Of course we hadn't, we were in school, and our dad was at work. She moves out maybe a year later and lives with her boyfriend. The next few experiences happen after I start going into paranormal places looking for things. One place was to a cemetery that's said to be incredibly haunted, and has been on TV for it. The first night after leaving the cemetery, a friend claimed to have experienced something at his house. I kind of wish I would experience something after. We went back to the cemetery another 3 or 4 times. Each time I came, I seemed to experience something, but not instantly. For example, one time I was on the phone with a friend, and this black orb, maybe the size of a baseball, appeared in front of me and then suddenly dissipated like smoke. It was the strangest thing, but it didn't scare me. The next night my brother was home alone. He called me to come pick him up. We shared a car at the time. I drove to my dad's to get him and walk in. Nobody's there. I call him and ask where he is, and he said our mom got him. I tell him okay and ask what happened. He said, "Nothing, I'll tell you tomorrow." The next day arrives and he tells me that a black shadow appeared in front of him and moved towards the window. My brother and I wouldn't sleep in any of the bedrooms because of what happened in that part of the house. We slept in the den on the couches because of that. Another night, after leaving the cemetery, I remember having a dream about a demon. I woke up soon after, and I heard the piano playing softly. It was maybe an octave higher than middle C. I remember the hall, and a total of 3 bedrooms connected to it. The piano was in the middle bedroom, in between the master bedroom and the other room. I walked to the room, and the piano was getting quieter. I looked into the room and the piano stopped. Maybe I was hearing things because I'd just woken up, but the piano playing happened 2 other various times during the day after experiencing this. Another time during the night after the cemetery, I was trying to go to sleep on the couch, and I hear something in the kitchen moving. I sat up really quickly, looked to see where my brother was, the dog, and my dad. They were all asleep. I tried to calm myself down by saying it's just a mouse or something, despite not having any. The noise stopped and I laid back down, and it started again. It was the sound of cabinet doors opening and chairs moving around. I sat up really quickly and threw the remote at my brother to wake him up. Of course, when he wakes up, it stops. He remembers this happening, which is enough for him to believe me that something actually happened. During the time of all of this, my dad got leukemia, which people didn't understand how he got. He got too much radiation, the doctor said, but we didn't understand how. My dad passed away in early 2010. We cleaned most of the house and got ready to have a yard sale. I don't know why I'm in the house alone, but I am. I was standing in the kitchen in the refrigerator when a golf ball came bouncing in the room and hit the door of the refrigerator. This was significant to me because my dad was a big golfer. It was how he made a living for a long time. I looked down at it and back up. It was enough to scare me. In the kitchen there was a back door and a garage door. I don't know why I didn't go out those, but I didn't. I decided to go through the back of the kitchen. When you get to the opposite end, you can either go left or right towards the hallway. I obviously was not going to go right towards the hallway. As soon as I turned my back to the hallway, every single hair on my body stood up. I felt incredibly sick and scared at the same time. I could feel something staring me down, and it wasn't a good feeling. Maybe malicious. I knew if I turned around I would see something. I've always heard about knowing when something was there. Even if you can't see it, your body knows. It was the strangest and scariest thing I have ever felt. Needless to say, I didn't turn around. I ran out of the house. I wonder what I would have seen if I turned around. My sister later experienced the phone ringing when it wasn't hooked up. Soon after, my grandfather moves in, and one of my dad's friends stay with him. We appreciate that a lot. Unfortunately, my grandfather had a stroke and heart attack and died. My dad's friend continued to live in the house for some time and wouldn't sleep in the back of the house, only the den, like my brother and I used to. He moved out eventually and said there was something in the house, but wouldn't talk about it because he was staying there. Since then, we live in the new house, and the only thing crazy I've experienced is having a dream at the same time as my brother. In the dream, a demon was in the room tormenting him, and I woke up. We both woke up at the same time, and the next morning, we talked about why. He said in his dream there was a demon over his bed that was tormenting him, went under his bed, then kicked it from underneath, and that's what woke him up. Earlier I said I dreamt about a demon. I've had multiple dreams about one, and it always seems to be the same one. It's always in all black. Need some help identifying what I experienced as a child. Posted in the Paranormal subreddit by Angry Kangaroo 83. When I was a young fella, I lived with my parents in this old farmhouse they rented. One night while sleeping in my parents' bed after they had a particularly nasty verbal argument, I remember walking and seeing what looked like red glowing eyes under my sister's crib. Being a child, you can imagine this scared me. So I closed my eyes again, and it was then I felt a presence hovering over me for a bit before vanishing. A few days later, my dad heard the chickens making a fuss in their coop, so he went out with a gun and ended up shooting an overly large feral cat. Never really seen these two incidents as being linked until this year. Also, really quickly, I remember slipping out of my bedroom window and hitting my head rather hard on the concrete footpath below. Could all these events be linked, or am I just grasping at straws? I recently heard about shadow people. Could this be what I experienced? Are shadow people known for keeping pets, or was this something far more malevolent? Dreams of premonition? Posted in the Paranormal subreddit by mflowerdew1. I've never really had dreams like other people tell me they dream. No ghosts or mysterious figures plague my nightmares. No princes come to rescue me, etc. My dreams are all the things that are completely normal occurrences with either people I know or people with blurred faces in a real-life setting. Occasionally I will dream of magical, mystical places, but only usually with people I know involved. I suffer from really intense sleep paralysis often. On occasion, after reading a few articles, I've been able to control it and bust into my ceiling and fly. But this is recent, and normally I'm just trapped in my bed knowing I'm asleep waiting to wake up. A few times at work, I've messaged a client referring to an email I read feeling half asleep. I have a demanding job. To have them bewildered at how I knew. For example, someone was quitting, and I mentioned it like it had already happened, just to have her say that was not going on. I searched my emails frantically and found nothing, only to find out a week later, not in an email, that she was quitting and taking up the same job in the email. This is the kicker that made me post. I had a really bad falling out with someone. I loved them dearly in a romantic way, basically did everything for him, and he would not even acknowledge me as his girlfriend. Kicked him out of my house and went on my merry way for 3 years. One night, I awoke in cold sweats with a horrible night terror that he was dying. I didn't put much thought into it besides the stress it made me feel all day. I messaged him on Facebook and told him I have had horrible dreams centered around his death and that he means a lot to me as a childhood friend. I forgive him for everything but still want no contact. Last week I found out he has a terminal illness, and found out around the time I messaged him. His silence to my messages makes more sense now. I'm heartbroken. I've been dreaming about it for 2 years now, that my boyfriend is cheating on me. I don't want to put too much into my dreams and hope it's all a coincidence, but it's hard to shake.